Alright, sorry about that, guys. Just want to make sure everything's adjusted and straight here with the camera. But I wanted to come on here because today, or recently, Nick Khan, the CEO of WWE, was on CNBC. And when he was on there, he was interviewed about, not only WWE's potential sale, but a lot of other things. And according to those that watched it, like Just Alex, they gave credit where credit is due, basically stating that these CNBC people did not hold back on asking these questions. They did not hold back, nor did they let Nick Khan kind of like slip by with certain answers and everything, which he still did, but not entirely. Now, of course, one of the things they talked about, like I mentioned, is the sale. And Nick Khan said something along the lines, with an answer of, that he feels and believes that once a sale is complete, which he is estimating could be very soon, like within 3 months or so, but that's an estimation. He didn't flat out say, yeah, in the next 3 months we're going to sell the company and that's it. No. He estimated that it may be 3 months, maybe it'll be longer, we don't know. But be that as it may, one thing that he did mention during this interview is that he believes that Vince McMahon will leave WWE once the sale is done. In other words, Vince McMahon will step away for good this time once the sale is complete. And that right there is, a question that falls under the category of questions of will they, won't they? Because a lot of people, when they hear this, they don't believe it. They don't. They do not believe for one single solitary second that Vince McMahon will step away from his baby. That he will basically hand it over to whoever the new owners are and leave it and just leave it as is. A lot of people have always felt that Vince McMahon will want to be part of that sale. Like if you're going to get WWE, you're going to get Vince McMahon. That's pretty much it. But, Nick Khan said that, hey, he believes that Vince will basically step down once the sale is complete. But will he? Will he, though? Will he be willing, once the sale to whoever the new owners are, whether it's Comcast, whether it's Endeavor, Amazon, Netflix, Disney, whoever. Maybe even, unfortunately, the PFI, which is a long shot now, according to a lot of insider trades and stuff. Which I think is another reason why the lawsuits are coming about. I don't think any of the shareholders want to have anything to do with the Saudi Arabia people. But be that as it may, basically, will he do it, willingly? Will he willingly step down and hand control over to these new owners? And, that's something we just have to, as the old saying goes, wait and see to basically, witness whether or not it will become a reality. That's something we have to wait and see to witness whether or not it'll become a reality. Because if it doesn't, and Vince McMahon is still part of the company once it's sold, then the question is in what capacity? What capacity? There are some potential buyers that say, hey, we'll keep Vince McMahon, but we won't let him be in power like he is now. There are some that have said, hey, we'll keep Vince McMahon on, but we'll give him something like an on-screen role. And that's about it. Some have even said that, once they buy the company, and Vince, believing he's going to be part of it, once he comes on board, they're going to fire him. That might be something that happens too. But we don't know. We don't know. Right now, it's more along the lines of when the sale is completed and whether or not within that time frame, which Nick Khan has said would be within the span of 3 months, whether or not Vince will actually be true to the word, his word, and finally step away and let the new owners run things. That is, the biggest, wonderment right now in question. Will he or won't he? And a lot of fans that have come out and been very vocal about this over the past, a couple of months, especially with the lawsuits and everything, basically feel that that Vince will not want to step away. That Vince will do whatever it takes to include himself in the sale, so that he can never part with his baby. But this is where I think the lawsuits come into play, and a lot of people have pointed this out too. The shareholders that are issuing these lawsuits, including the more recent one that I talked about, according to a lot of YouTube wrestling fans analysis, YouTube wrestling fans and analysis, like let's say Just Alex Central, they all have come out and said that these shareholders see what we see. That they see how dangerous and how basically, maniacal and how much of an egomaniac Vince is, that they don't trust him either with a potential sale. Which is why a lot of these lawsuits, despite what Nick Khan may say, could potentially halt any sale from happening within the next 3 to 4, 6 months. And the reason they would halt it is because they do not want Vince anywhere near WWE when a potential sale happens, so that he has no influence whatsoever. The only problem with that, though, is right now he is a majority shareholder. He's got a majority of the vote. But, as I mentioned in the video I did yesterday before work, that, I believe, is one of the reasons this fourth and new lawsuit is coming into play. Because what they're asking with this new lawsuit is documental evidence that shows that every board member at the time when this was voted on and made unanimous had all agreed verbally and signature-wise that they did not want Vince McMahon back. That includes board members at the time, which were Nick Khan, the current CEO, the COO, the chief content creator officer, if you will, Triple H, his son-in-law, and his daughter Stephanie McMahon, which a lot of people still feel left, not because of wanting to go on sabbatical, wanting a break, wanting to get her her leg worked on in surgery. No, they believe it's because of the situation, between her and her father, that obviously, she did not want to have any part of, knowing that no matter what she would say or try to do, he would override her. So yeah, despite what Nick Khan might say, which does sound good on paper, like Triple H remaining as chief content creator, head of creative and all that, despite what he may say and everything, people don't trust Vince. They don't trust a word that comes out of his mouth. And honestly, if I'm going to give you my opinion, I don't think Nick Khan trusts him either. But he's just saying what he has to right now to not only make himself look good so that Vince doesn't probably, eye any suspicion, coming from him of distrust. The same way Triple H, praised Vince yesterday during the conference call, the quarterly conference call. But also the fact that he and Triple H, separately in these past 24 hours, are trying to make the company look good to a potential buyer, in the long run, whether it's Endeavor, Comcast, or whoever. So, honestly, again, I don't think Nick Khan, almost said Tony Khan there, but Nick Khan trusts Vince McMahon any more than the rest of us do, or any more than Triple H does, or any more than the shareholders that are suing him with these lawsuits, filing these lawsuits against him do. They don't trust. Overall, nobody. I'll tell you right now, nobody on that board trusts this guy. Not even the people he brought back to be along with him. Those 3 people that he brought back, I guarantee you, my opinion, but I guarantee you, they don't trust him either. They do not trust this man. Which is why, when people hear Nick Khan come out and say in this interview that, Vince would be willing to step down after a sale is done, they look at that and they pretty much eye that with, are you sure? Are you sure Vince is willing to step down? Or is he just saying that so that you don't have any suspicion of what his true intentions are? You see, that's how a lot of fans are viewing it. Like, they see Vince as somebody that will say that to someone like a Nick Khan and to someone like a Triple H and all that, and basically make them believe, oh, good, once we sell the company, we won't have to worry about Vince anymore. To a lot of fans, Vince is just saying that to make himself look good so that there's no suspicion on him of what his true intentions are. Just like Nick Khan, as I mentioned, and Triple H are praising Vince, making him look good along with the company so that Vince doesn't bat an eyebrow of suspicion towards them. And the reality just like the shareholders, just like most of the members of the board, including the ones he brought back with him, along with the fans and even the talent, basically, flat out, in reality, don't trust him. They'll praise him and everything and say good things, so he doesn't bat an eye at that suspicion of, hey, we don't really trust this guy, any further than we can throw him. So, yeah. Long story short, when Nick Khan said this, it really raised it really raised the suspicion, I should say, of a lot of fans, and on whether or not this is true. Or Nick Khan's just saying this because maybe Vince said it to him so that Vince himself can make himself look good and not eye any suspicion towards him and his true intentions, while at the same time, Nick Khan and Triple H praising Vince for what he's been doing, the talent somewhat doing the same stuff and all that, don't eye suspicion from him of how they truly feel. And that being that they, along with the board, along with the new members that Vince brought in too, along with him, and all that, don't trust basically don't eye him as, hey, we don't believe you, Vince, in anything. We don't believe a word you say. We don't trust you. Basically it's like a battle of wits is what it is. It's a battle of wits of who's going to basically blink first to cause suspicion. Is Nick Khan, Triple H, the board, the talent and all them, are they going to blink first? And Vince is going to raise his eyebrow like, I wonder what they really think of me, and all that. Or is Vince going to blink first and everybody's suspicion about him becomes reality or starts to manifest itself into reality? You see, that's why a lot of people, they listen to what Nick Khan said here and they have their doubts. Because, again, WWE is Vince's baby. And it's like if you try to basically... what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, what's the not the word, but what's the description I'm looking for that could best summarize this? It's kind of like when you're trying to train a 2 to 3 year old to stop sucking on a pacifier, and to kind of calm them down or relax them and all that. It's like you're trying to train a 2 to 3 year old by taking away the pacifier from them and making them learn to live without it and go to bed without it or relax without it. That's kind of somewhat of a descriptive summary of how a lot of people look at what Nick Khan said here, and raise their eyes in suspicion, because it's like, really? You think Vince will be willing to part with his baby once the sale is done? Because it's like, because it'll be like trying to take a pacifier away from a baby where you're trying to train them to go without it and live without it. It's kind of like doing that, and the baby doesn't want to let go of that pacifier because it's theirs. And it makes them feel good. It gives them empowerment. That's how a lot of people look at Vince. And whether or not he'd be willing to part from WWE, for the long term. Not the short term like he did previously, but for the long term. That's how a lot of fans view this. It's kind of like, again, going back to the baby description, it's kind of like trying to train a baby to go from diapers to underwear, or to the pull-ups, if you will. That are the next step in going to underwear and all that. It's like trying to train them to stop living with a diaper and go to the pull-ups, get used to them, and that way you can eventually evolve them to wearing just the underwear or something like that, or the boxers. It's like trying to train a baby that doesn't want to go out of their diapers because they feel protective in those diapers. They feel safe and secure and empowered. It's kind of like that. Or it's kind of like if, let's say, for example, a kid is always sleeping with this, right? A young baby, as they get, as they're growing up, they sleep with this. But then as a parent, you're like, well, we got to take this away from you because you got to learn to live without it, right? Or you got to learn to go to sleep without it. Or you got to learn to travel to stores or travel to grandma's or your aunts or your other family members without it. It's like trying to take away, the protective toy, and they're latching onto it, going like, no, mine, makes me feel safe, gives me power. That's kind of how fans are viewing Vince. Like, would Vince be willing to part with WWE? Would he be willing to do that, or would he be willing to do what a young child does, not wanting to let go of the precious, object, that gives them power, keeps them protected, Would he be willing to do that? And the obvious answer from everybody's perspective, even though some that haven't not picked up on it, but haven't said anything yet, the overall answer to that is no. Vince is not going to be willing to step down. Vince is going to be the kind of person that's going to latch on to his protective item because it gives him power, and then no matter how much the new owners try to drag him away from it, he's going to keep holding on to it and holding on to it and holding on to it because it's his. It's his. It's mine and mine. In his opinion, that's how fans view it. And if that is indeed the case, then all I could say to the new owners, whether it's Comcast, Endeavor, whether it's Disney, whether it's, as crazy as it sounds, Warner Brothers, the Cons, who knows? Whoever it might be, Amazon, Netflix, who knows? Whoever it might be, I can tell you this. You, as the owners, are going to have to get the jaws of life to remove Vince from WWE. That's how a lot of fans feel about this whole situation. Like, Nick Khan can come out on CNBC and any other interviews he does in the near future and repeat the same answers, repeat and give the same answers as he's done before, and everybody's eyes will raise in suspicion of whether or not what he's saying about Vince being willing to step away is true, because to them, Vince is going to be that kind of person that's not going to want to let it go. That he's going to hold on to it and be like, no, mine, it gives me power, mine. That's how they view it. That's how they view Vince not wanting to leave WWE. And then, like I said, it's going to take the new owners, if that's true, to get out of the freaking jaws of life and be like, you're coming whether you want to or not. That's literally what it's going to take. But we'll have to see in the next, several months. Within the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the next year or so, we'll have to see. Because even though Nick Khan can say, I expect a deal to maybe go down within 3 months, or the next 3 months, it doesn't mean it will. All it can mean is that's what he's estimating as, a strong chance. As like a more likely strong chance. But, again, these deals could take a lot longer. Because even though a sale could be done, it's going to take a lot longer for all the X's and O's and everything to be, to be taken care of for the deal to be finalized. And anytime during that period, they could pull out of the deal. Whoever decides to do that, whether it's WWE or the potential new owners. Things like that could happen. But again, we'll have to see, how things shake up in the next 3 to 4, 5, 6 months of the next year, basically. But yeah, when fans hear Nick Khan say, yeah, Vince would be willing to step down once the sale is done, they find that hard to believe. Again, they look at Vince as being someone that's going to hold on to WWE like he's a baby holding on to the precious toy no matter where they go, taking it with them no matter where they go, and not wanting to leave it at home because it's theirs, it's mine, it's theirs, it's mine, gives me power, protects me, That's how they view Vince. That's how they view Vince when it comes to, potentially leaving WWE after a sale. He's not going to want to. Even if the new owners are like, look, you're too much trouble as it is, you need to go. He's not going to want to let it go. He tried, but he couldn't. And if, him being gone for 6 to 8 months, was his attempt at trying, he failed. So now he's back and coming back in the way he did, which is why these lawsuits are happening, basically, including the one that was done most recently with wanting evidence, documentational evidence of what was agreed upon, basically, basically it's going to take, like I said, if if that is the case of, hey, he's not going to want to step down because of the, even with a sale and the new owners maybe saying, hey, you got to go, he's going to latch on saying, no, mine, mine, mine. That's how people view it. That's how they view it. So, yeah, basically, long story short, as I mentioned, we'll just have to see what the situation is in the next several months and whether or not he will be willing to step down, as Nick Khan, alluded to in the interview. Because if not, I can say this about, like I said, new owners, whether it's Comcast, Endeavor, Disney, ESPN, Amazon, Netflix, WB, Tony Khan and his father, whoever it is. All I could say is you guys better get the freaking jaws of life to remove that man from WWE, because he ain't going to want to go. And that's how a lot of fans view it. Because they don't trust him. And like I said, I don't think Nick Khan, no matter what he says in these interviews to make himself look good and WWE look good, no matter what Triple H says in the conference calls to make him look good and the company look good and all that, and no matter what the board says, including the members that Vince brought back along with him and along with his chief of staff or board chief of staff and all that, the talent, everybody within WWE across the board, no one trusts Vince. Nobody in reality does, trust this man. No matter what they'll come out and say otherwise, they do not trust this man. And the only reason they're not saying anything right now is to not gain any suspicion from him. And the reason Vince isn't doing anything, that could basically reveal his true tendencies is because it could raise suspicion on everybody else's part of why he's really here. But yeah, will he or won't he? Majority of the people out there believe he won't, but we'll have to see. Again, if he won't, and the new owners are like, yeah, you got to go, get the jaws of life is all I'm going to say. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chats. Well, I would say super chats are on, but they're not. What I'm trying to say is you will get a... what I'm trying to say is live chats will be open during this, so give me your thoughts there, as well as comments down below. Also, you can check out an audio podcast version of this later on my BW Roses Discussions podcast at all your favorite audio podcast locations, except for Pandora. Also, check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, check me out at patreon.com/BWRoses with the $1, $3 tier. And also, guys, check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get here on YouTube. And until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think Vince will step away, or do you think it's going to take the jaws of life to remove him? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat. And until next time, guys, I am out.